Hi, this is Andrew Pendergast. I'm the SPAC practice leader here at NFP. Today, we'll briefly discuss the recent trends in securities class action litigation for SPACs and how D&O insurance can be used as a tool to mitigate the impact of defense costs and ultimate settlement on individuals and the entities themselves. The SPAC craze has continued through 2021 with over 275 SPACs completing IPOs, raising in excess of $89 billion in total gross proceeds. With the explosion in SPACs over the past 2 years has come increased scrutiny from both the plaintiffs' bar and from short sellers, resulting ultimately in additional securities class action filings. There are two types of filings that we're seeing most commonly, one being a more nuisance style claim, very similar to the bump up style litigation we've seen in public company M&A over the past decade, and the other being a more significant and severe type of securities class action filing, where there is actual tangible investor loss that is being filed after the de-SPAC has been completed. We'll begin by discussing the more nuisance-style litigation that we're seeing. We'll use Churchill Capital Corp. 3 as an example. Churchill Capital filed a preliminary proxy statement last July in relation to its proposed transaction with Multiplan. In August, a securities class action was filed that alleged that proxy filing was materially deficient and that it omitted material information that shareholders needed to make an informed decision on whether to vote their shares in favor or not in favor of the transaction. These types of claims are becoming increasingly more common for SPACs. In addition to alleging that the proxy filings omit material information needed to make an informed decision, they may also allege that SPAC sponsors breached their fiduciary duty by running an unfair process and consummating the transaction at an unfair price. These claims, for the most part, are voluntarily dismissed and don't result in significant defense costs or settlement. In some cases, there's a nominal fee that needs to be paid to the plaintiff's part to make the claim go away, but it is not a significant source of severe litigation for SPAC sponsors. The claims that SPAC sponsors should be concerned about don't actually come in until after the de-SPAC has been completed. Using the examples of Immunivant, Akazu, Nikola, and most recently XL Fleet, securities class actions were a result of short sellers reports that came out that caused a significant stock drop for the combined entity. The securities class action filings will name both the prior SPAC directors and officers. They will likely also name directors and officers of the combined entity, and they'll name the entity itself. The class action filing will point to the proxy statement. It will also point to the pre- and post-close press releases that were issued by the SPAC and the combined company, and will generally allege violations of Rule 10b-5 of the 34 Act, which relates to securities fraud. Now that we have tangible investor loss, defense costs and ultimate settlements could be significant. This is where directors and officers liability insurance comes into play. Most SPACs at the outset of their IPO will put into place a public company directors and officers liability program that is intended to cover the defense costs and ultimate settlement as a result of these securities class action filings. The term of these policies will be 24 months to line up with the due diligence period of the SPAC, with an option for an extended reporting period of 6 years at the time of de-SPAC to cover claims that come in after the de-SPAC has been completed but allege wrongful acts occurring during the due diligence period. The proxy filing claim that we just discussed is a perfect example of this. The D&O insurance marketplace for SPACs has hardened considerably over the past 12 months as a result of increased claims frequency, but more so supply and demand economics. There is a limited number of insurers that will write D&O insurance for SPACs and an overwhelming demand for the product given the explosion in SPAC activity over the past 2 years. We recommend that SPACs reach out to a broker as soon as possible to discuss their options in the marketplace, generally speaking prior to filing their confidential S-1 with the SEC. Thank you for your time today and listening to our recap of the recent trends in securities class action litigation and how D&O insurance is intended to be used as a tool to mitigate the impacts of defense costs and settlement for SPAC sponsors and the entities themselves. If you have any questions about the information that we discussed today, please reach out to me at andrew.pendergast@nfp.com.